Hello YouTube friends, welcome to the Last Homely House. This is Anna,
Hi.
my daughter-in-law, and we've been making quilts together. There's a series all about beginning this quilt with Anna, and we'll leave that playlist down in the description below. But this one is the 9th video, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't believe it.
It's taken us.
Isn't it?
We haven't just been making quilts.
Yeah.
We've done lots of other things in between.
There's been a lot going on.
Yeah, but how far have you got with yours now?
Yeah, all the stitching is done. So I stitched in the ditch.
So Anna chose to hand quilt hers like I did, and tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, it was really fun. I took a bit longer than I was expecting because I got distracted by the things.
Well, let me tell you what she got distracted with. Let's just put that disclaimer in here. Anna's got hooked on hexagons.
Yeah, I was going to say renovating the house.
She's also renovating her house.
Yeah, but no, hexagons.
We've turned Anna into a quilter in this series. We really have. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
You know, from being somebody who was just mildly interested in fabric, she's
Yeah.
now, you're a fabriholic now.
Yeah, and it's funny because
John, my son John.
he started picking up the terms for it.
It's
as
so
well, hasn't
funny
he?
now. He was here the other day and he says, "Oh, is that a fat quarter bundle?" "Oh, I see you're stitching in the ditch, Mum."
That's my favourite one. When I'd be sitting stitching, he'd just walk past and go, "Stitching in the ditch, I see."
He's got all these cool terms, hasn't he?
Yeah, but he only has like maybe 6 that he then comes back.
Rotates round.
So he'd be like, Tana
Tana
Lawn.
lawn. That was the one I was thinking of. He says, "Oh, Tana lawn."
So, but he says that about every single
Everything.
bit of fabric.
He's great. He
Yeah.
really is great.
It's nice. Isn't
And we made a little bit of a video with John doing some sewing recently,
it?
didn't
Yeah,
we?
that should have been.
Yeah, I think
Out,
that
right?
video's already been, and so we'll leave a link to the video where John learns how to quilt on a machine. He did a good job, didn't he?
He did. He really did.
He did
yeah.
a fabulous job. So we get the whole family hooked on this eventually.
Yeah.
So you were stitching this at home then, and I've been stitching what I'm calling my Terry Quilt, and I was stitching along the diagonal.
Looks so good.
What were you using?
From the threads.
Yeah.
Orifil, but a mixture of the stranded cotton and the other
And the
one.
12s.
Yeah, in a mixture of different beautiful colours.
All the colours that blended in with your fabric choices here. So that's interesting. So 12s and stranded, and you used 3 strands?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
So for this one, I just completely stitched the whole thing in Orifil Marrakesh,
It
which
looks so
is
good.
my favourite thread.
Yeah, it's
It
beautiful.
really is. I use
it
it
works so well.
Well, this quilt is just got every colour under the sun, and so has Marrakesh.
Yeah.
So I love it. Oh, and I backed mine with this is a Brandon Mabley design, and it's called
Shark's Tooth.
Shark's Teeth or Shark's Tooth.
Yeah.
In this particular colourway, and I like it very much. You backed yours with a real scrappy back, yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
Let's have a quick look at a bit of the back of yours.
Find it. Thank you. Yeah, it's just all of the different bits of fabric, isn't it? It's sewed together.
So this is great.
in big old
And
blocks.
okay, on this then, so this first time I've seen the back of this, you can see your quilt stitches in the back subtly.
Yeah.
That looks great, doesn't it?
Yeah. When I did this first bit, stitching in the ditch, I did quite big stitches, and then when I started doing the stitching in diagonally across, I did like 3 or 4 lines of it, and then I was like, they're just too big, so I undid it all and then redid.
Oh,
So it was small, but you can see the difference in
Some of the-
massive ones and then teeny tiny ones.
but that's
But-
fine.
yeah.
That's all right. No one's going to look at the back of your quilt and say those
No.
stitches are too big, Anna.
Yeah.
All they're going to say is that's an amazing quilt.
Oh, thank you.
Well, it
I
is.
really
It
like
really
it.
is. I remember you telling me that you'd unpicked some.
Yeah.
So you were unsewing for a
I
bit.
was, yeah.
So I've stitched mine in one direction diagonally, and my plan had been to stitch it in the other direction diagonally, but these quilt lines are 2 inches apart, and I was going slightly mental. I went a little bit round the bend doing this.
Yeah.
So I am now going to bind this quilt, and if I come back in the future and stitch it in the other direction, when I have time to do that.
Is that straightforward to do?
Yes, it is. Just because you've bound it doesn't mean that you can't then go in and stitch on it again.
Very clever.
So for now, one of the reasons for stitching is to hold the 3 quilt layers together, and the quilt wadding, the batting, always gives you an interval at which you have to stitch so that it doesn't move about too much between your layers.
Right.
And I've stitched these 2 inches apart, and I think the interval for this batting is 8 inches. So it's not moving anywhere, it's fine.
Yeah, it looks great.
And I like it too, but I'm going to like it even more when I stitch in the other direction.
Yeah.
But that's going to come in time. It's not going to stop me from doing the binding.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about bindings. We're going to bind both of them. And so I'm going to put mine to one side for a minute. I'll talk about mine in a minute, but I want you to tell me your thoughts about your binding.
Yes. Well, I think just using all the colours from the quilt in a scrappy, fun way.
And what you've got is lots of offcuts. I'm going to pop this here behind you.
Okay.
And for now, and then I want you to show us what you've got in your box of scraps.
Yes.
So let's get these out here then. And so these then are the bits of offcut. Some are big.
Yeah.
Some are, that's interesting. What have you got here?
Yeah, so this is just the end of the tube, isn't it?
Yes, it is. That's right. And so there's a little bit here that would be very scrappy indeed. You'd have very little bits there.
Yeah.
So what's your thinking then about the binding?
Yeah, I think just that, just really scrappy and lots of different sizes and bits and all the different colours.
If there's a longer bit and a shorter bit, that would be fun.
Yeah, I think that would be fun.
Okay, all right.
Because there's lots of bits like that. And there's actually a few, I think because...
Now, you've already made your backing, of course, because you've quilted it, but they would have made it into the backing.
Yeah.
But they quite possibly will make it into the binding now.
Yeah. That would work, wouldn't it?
It might.
I mean, I can't imagine how.
Well, I'm going to show you how to do all of that.
Yeah.
So the first thing we're going to do then is trim up your quilt and get it ready to bind so that we trim all the excess off.
Yeah.
And we'll measure all the way around it. So we'll measure 2 sides and multiply by 2. I think we can manage that. We are mathematically challenged, Anna and I.
Yeah.
I think it's, we'll come clean right now.
But I do think we have that dyscalculia.
Yes, we do. We do.
The maths dyslexia. I really do think that. So I think we should...
We have. Wouldn't it be great if one of us didn't have it?
It would be really helpful.
Oh dear. The calculator gets a lot of use, doesn't it?
It does.
However, we can manage to measure all the way around your quilt and make the binding. Now, let's think about how wide we want that binding to be.
Okay.
Because there's all sorts of looks that you can have on your finished quilt. We're binding it now to give it a nice finish.
Yeah.
Right, so we're going to make, let's say we choose this piece, for instance, here. And you're going to fold it in half, like that. And then you fold this on 1/4 of an inch all the way around your quilt, like that, and then turn it over to the back and stitch it down. Now, if you use 3 inches, you'd have a very, very thin binding.
Okay.
And that might look quite nice. So if we chose 3 inches, you could probably get all your binding out of these scraps we've got here.
Perfect.
Which is good because we haven't got any more.
Yeah.
Right, then, so I'll set the iron up then, Anna.
But wait, what about your binding?
Oh, mine. Okay, mine. I'm going to bind my quilt today as well. And every time I do a binding on a quilt, I do it the way that I'm going to show Anna, in that way so that the binding is visible. But when I was at the Festival of Quilts last year and I met Joe Cunningham, and he faces his quilts, all of them. And so at Christmas time, I did that big Advent series. Do you remember filming all of that for my patrons? And I faced that quilt and I really liked how it looked. And so I've made this. It's exactly the same as the binding I'm going to get Anna to make, but this is going to be a facing instead of a binding, which means that I think this is going to work because this is so busy. And so if you now frame it with a binding, it'll... I don't know, it might look fantastic with a binding, but I've decided that I'm going to face it.
Yeah.
So I've cut this then. It's, I think, again, I've cut it the same as I'm telling you. Yeah, this is 3 inches.
And is that quite a common thing, the facing?
I don't think it is, because I've never come across it before I met Joe at the festival last year, and he showed us all around his booth, and he even played his guitar for us.
Yeah, he was such a nice guy.
It was brilliant. He really was great. He was such a nice guy. He's in, whereabouts in America is he?
He's in San Francisco, I think.
San Francisco. And he has a YouTube channel called The Quilt Report. And I maybe leave a link to that for you in the description below, because that's where I saw how to do a facing. He does a very simple little tutorial on how to face. And it means that there's no visible binding on the front of the quilt. It means that you get a straight, the pattern goes straight to the edge. I'm going to try it on this quilt and
Yeah.
see how it looks. And
Yeah,
no,
I like it.
I until I met Joe and saw Joe's quilts faced, I'd never seen facings before.
Yeah,
Maybe there's
interesting.
loads of people out there doing facings. Maybe you should let us know in the comments how you how you finish yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Because we're going
isn't
to
it?
bind yours in the traditional way that I do and
Yeah.
face mine in that way that Joe does.
Good.
And probably many other people as well. Okay then, so I've got mine all ready to go. I've
Yep.
already trimmed mine, so I'm going to get Anna to firstly, well, it doesn't matter which order you do it in, we're going to iron these and
Okay.
cut these to size,
Good.
and then we'll trim up your quilt.
Perfect.
And
It's a
Yeah.
bit like, because they said we'll start work at the end of February, and we're not even at the end of February.
No,
and it's
we're
like
not.
now we've got to pick all our tiles and stuff this weekend.
well, that's good though.
No, it is good. It is good. Look at this. It's such a clever way of doing it. What should I go for next? Oh, this one will be good. Wonder how long it's going to be. Do you think it'll be long enough?
I'm going to. No, you're doing really well. No, you are. Did you feel a bit patronised there?
No, you're just so encouraging. It's
Yeah,
nice.
you're doing great.
Thank
I'm just
you.
chuffed to bits with the way this has all turned out.
Oh, me
From a
too.
complete non-quilter to this point, I think it's brilliant. So let me just snip this off and we'll just see how long it is now. It's very, very long.
But can I keep going with these last little
Yes,
bits?
please do. Oh, so it's very long.
Should I make some of the? You said something about cutting.
And so, okay then, so what Anna's got here then is some lovely little short bits, which I can't, there, look.
They look cool.
Some very sweet little short bits. And then some very long bits. Now if you didn't
Can
want...
I get more of the little short bits in? How do I do that?
Well, if
when
you...
we trim the edge of this? Or is that
there won't be much of those, no.
Okay.
So what I'm going to suggest is that
Uh-huh.
when you're sewing this and you've got a big long bit,
Yeah.
I'll give you the big scissors, you know, those
Yeah,
10-inch Kai scissors,
Yeah.
and you can cut them off and then sew them back together again. So
Yeah.
you keep doing that until it's as scrappy as you want it to be.
Yeah.
I'll go and get you the big scissors now.
Thank you.
And with this now, you've had it going that way, but now you'll have it going that way, so that you're changing the direction of the pattern as well. I don't know if that'll be noticeable in the binding, but I'll cut you some of those and you can space those. But the last thing we must do is make too much binding, because it is lots of fun making binding, but we don't need to go round the world with it, okay? We just need to go round the quilt. Okay, so there's a few more of those. So Anna's sewn all her scrap bits together now. We didn't measure anything, so I'm going to measure it now as Anna's ironing it, and I'm going to measure it. So let's see how I get on doing that. It's going to be a collaboration here. Okay.
That was so much fun. I could have just kept making it.
Well, and the
Have you ever
problem
done
is
that?
yes, the problem is that
Just can't
I've done
stop.
it, and I suspect you've done it
Yeah.
today, because we don't need.
Because it's like, oh, we'll just have that little bit more. But I like it when it's small. Just do a little bit more.
So the problem now is that we may have more binding than we need.
But we can use it for a tie, right?
Well, that's what I usually do. So oftentimes, if I'm giving a quilt away,
Yeah.
I'll make a tie for it,
Because remember, this is going to be my spring/summer quilt.
so you can put it away in the
winter,
time.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, something like that. So I'm going
Let's make
to.
more. Oh, I like this bit.
Okay, Anna. Which bit?
With a little scrappy
Oh,
bit.
where the little scraps come together. All right, I've put a little stool next to Anna.
Hello, Frodo.
Hello, Gandalf.
That's going to look ridiculous on that. Yeah.
Do you want to learn how to put binding on, Gandalf?
I really do. Thank you.
Just let me explain before we go any further, in case you think my house is on fire. Ant, who helps me build the cabin and do various things, he's here today doing some other things for me, and he's having a bonfire.
Yeah.
So, and every now and then you'll see great plumes of white smoke going past. We're fine. We're not on fire. It's a controlled fire. Okay then. And it can you smell bonfire?
Yeah, it smells good.
It does, doesn't it? So we have your trimmed quilt here now.
Okay.
And just put the scissors there for when you need them. Let's open her out. So big quilts, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Now, you can start anywhere.
Okay.
All right. Now, some people do mitered joins on their binding, and it's very, very clever. I don't do that.
Okay.
The quilt police know where I live, so they can come and get me.
You're on their list.
I am on
the
their
naughty
list.
list.
I'm on the naughty list. Okay then. So,
Quilt police. No.
they can come and get me anytime they like. Are we going to get this binding sewn on, Gandalf?
Yeah, we are.
Let's do it.
Are.
Let's do it. Okay then.
Okay.
So when you start, then I need you to just to leave the top 3 or 4 inches hanging free.
Okay.
And then you're going to sew. Now the edges are cut nice and neat, and this is folded nice and neatly. You did a good job of ironing that in half. So you should be able to get all of those edges really nicely lined up. And all I want you to do is sew. I'm going to say 1/4 of an inch, but I'm not going to mind too much if it's a tiny bit more. It's all right. So now you've turned your quilt round and you want to bind down this side here. So flip that binding up to the top and keep it nice and straight. Keep this edge in line with the quilt. Beautiful. Now keep one finger on there and bring it down. Very good. And then without losing that lovely right angle that you've made, that lovely mitre, now you're going to slide it back in under the needle. You're doing really well. Knee up. That's it. And then just...
It's not quite...
Don't worry about that.
Does that not matter?
Doesn't matter. Nope. Just go. It's better that you get this part right. Okay, and if you go a little bit further, then I'll show you exactly what you've got there. Okay, let's have a look. So what you've got now then is a lovely corner that we can flip round to the other side of your quilt.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
so just keep going till you get to the next one.
Okay.
That's it, really good. And then knee up again, and off you go. Cool. And she's off. How's that going, Anna?
I find this bit a little bit tricky, but it's good. I'm enjoying it.
Good. You're doing really well. Most people don't put a binding on with a camera pointing straight at them when it's only the first time you've done, well, kind of the second time maybe.
Second time, yeah.
And that was a long time ago.
It was.
So I think she's doing brilliantly well.
Thank you.
And I like this stage of quilting because it means that you're almost done. I think I like this part, but I best of all like hand stitching it down.
Yeah, I remember that one I did for my mum. I remember really enjoying that bit.
Because you can sit of an evening with the telly on and do a bit of stitching.
Yeah. We watched It's a Wonderful Life while I did that one. Do you remember?
Yes, I can remember. With my dad.
Yeah, it was really nice.
I remember that. That was a while ago now then.
It was. But I've been staying with my parents because we're renovating our house. And every night I've been sitting underneath that quilt. On the sofa. It's
Well,
been
now
really
you'll be able
nice.
to sit underneath this one.
Yeah. Get off right there.
So whenever I'm binding a quilt like this, and it takes some concentration, and I always come to the realisation that this quilt's got more than 5 corners, more than 4 corners. It's got at least 5 corners, because you think you've reached the last one and you definitely haven't.
Yeah. I think, I've got...
She's got one more.
Yeah.
No, you've got 2 more.
2 more, what?
No, you've got 1 more
I was
corner
going
to
to
do.
say, I'm very
5 corners. I told you this quilt's got 5 corners. You're doing great.
Thank you.
So Anna's just done her binding, and I'm doing this one, and I'm facing it instead of binding it. Like I mentioned, it's something that I saw on Joe Cunningham's quilts. I think a lot of people do it. But I'll leave the link to the video that Joe made about facing quilts. And what I'm doing, instead of doing the mitered corner like Anna did, this is a 2.5 inch strip that I've ironed in half. And I'm just sewing this on here all the way around. When you get to the corner, I'll get to one in a minute. It's exactly the same. So when I get to the end then, instead of doing that mitered corner, and I've sewn this one here with a raw edge like that, and I'm just going to sew this one here. And then I'm going to trim the bulk off this corner here, and then when you turn this to the right side and give it a little poke with your scissors, then this raw edge here gets lost inside there, and that edge sits like that. And then you turn the whole thing, all of it, to the back of the quilt, so that there's none of it visible on the front at all, and then catch that down. And that's a faced quilt. And I thought that for this quilt, which is so busy, I thought it would look great if it didn't have a frame. I thought it would look really great if it was just faced like that. So I'm going to press that down now. You just cut the bulk out of there, out of the corner, so that you can tease it open. There we are. That's a nice corner there now. And this is the second quilt I've faced, and I really enjoy doing it. I like the way it looks, and so I think I might be doing this a fair few times. So then I'm going to catch this down now, and this one will be finished as well. So we've moved down to my little cabin. I spend a lot of time down here, either hand stitching or crocheting. I've actually started a crochet project as well, but I love to come down here. It's your first time sewing down here, isn't it?
It is. Can you remind me how to do this?
Yes, I will. And so,
Been a while.
There's a thimble if you want to use one.
Thanks, yeah, I'll give it a go.
I do love these thimbles. I can't actually sew without them. I've also brought some binding clips.
Okay, would that
which-
be helpful?
I don't know. Sometimes people do find binding clips quite helpful. And now with your one, you've got to decide from the front how much of your binding you want visible. So
Yeah.
if you want quite a narrow binding visible,
Yeah.
or if you want a little bit more binding, then you have to just be careful that you always stitch down the right amount. Now, the least you can get away with is to cover over the stitch row.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest your binding can be, is just to cover over your stitch row there. But you could also take it a bit further over onto the back and have a narrower binding.
What's your preference?
Well, I like a narrow binding,
Okay.
but I also think that looks quite nice too. It frames the quilt, and
Yeah.
you've taken such pains to make your binding very scrappy, so it might be quite nice to be able to see it.
Yeah.
So you get to choose. I go into the backing fabric, not into the wadding or the front. I mean, sometimes I can feel that I've got the wadding. That doesn't matter. And then directly below where I came out, and then I come up about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch, just over further away and just catch that binding down.
I remember really enjoying this in the last one.
Yeah. And it's the lovely thing about it is, as I said before, it's the last thing.
Yeah.
You'll have a finished quilt when you get round to the other end of this.
Yeah.
So having a finished quilt, Anna,
Yeah.
that's quite a thing, isn't it?
I know.
Can you remember when you first had the idea to do this quilt?
Well, I was just thinking about that before. We started at the beginning of the year 2 years ago.
No.
Uh-huh.
It surely wasn't.
It was like January 2 years ago, yeah.
2 years ago.
Because can you remember at first it was just like the first three we just talked about.
Lots of researching.
Yeah.
Well, and I made one. Do you remember?
Yeah. So that was the first year was us just talking about it.
In fact, didn't I make one and then give it away?
Yeah.
That was the giveaway for some milestone, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. What was it?
No, I can't remember.
50,000?
Might have been 50,000.
Yeah.
We're on 130 odd thousand now, which
Yeah.
is very nice. Which
Very
reminds
nice.
me, if you would like to subscribe, that would be wonderful.
Yes.
Because looking at the analytics, I see that only half the people who watch these videos are subscribed.
Really?
And so you think, well, why? What's the importance of that? It really does help a channel to have views and subscribers, because YouTube push the videos out to more people, and it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
It's good. Makes me very happy.
That's good.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we started off then, didn't we? Not
Uh-huh.
even knowing what fabric you wanted to use, and just thinking about all the quilts the quilt blocks you might make.
Yeah. And it was all inspired by that Little Women quilt.
Yes, and so we both went to see the movie Little Women, and there was a lovely, lovely quilt hanging up, wasn't there?
Yeah, being used as a curtain in
Yeah.
the play.
That's right. And you had your Pinterest board
I did.
with So you're happy about burying your knot there,
Yeah, I just got a little bit of thread here for
Good.
some reason, so just
Yeah.
get rid of it.
and then you just bury your knot and go
Unless
again.
it's that one. Just tuck it into there.
And you made your Pinterest board, and that was what inspired you
Yeah.
to start thinking about your block.
Mhm. Yeah, and then spent quite a long time being indecisive. Which
Yes,
doesn't
because
sound like me at all.
Well, Anna could not choose her fabrics at all.
Yeah.
And I threatened her and I said, if you don't choose your fabrics soon, Anna, I'm going to buy them.
And I honestly wasn't that wouldn't have been that much of a problem for me because I was like,
No, it
somebody help me.
It definitely would have been, because you have a very particular taste.
That's true, but then this is completely not what
Well, no,
I imagined at
it
all.
very much surprised me when you finally did choose. And we couldn't find this fabric anywhere for sale anywhere. I tried all the outlets that I know about, and I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
So in the end, we reached out to Spoonflower and got them to print it, and they were absolutely marvellous, weren't they? And
Yeah.
donated the fabric to you.
So nice.
Yeah, they were great. Catherine we dealt with, do you remember?
Yeah, she's lovely.
And so it's been a long time, slow burn, Catherine.
Yeah.
But we're finally at the point now where Anna can almost say she's got a finished quilt.
Yes, thank you very much, Spoonflower.
Yeah, but then we made the block that you wanted to make. There's a couple of different ways you can make this block,
Yeah,
and we did the tube method,
we did, yeah.
which is quite advanced for a beginner quilter, Anna.
Yeah, it was quite tricky to get my head around at first,
But then you really got it, didn't you?
yeah, I really enjoyed
Using
it.
the ruler in that way and making those tubes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you did really well at that.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, it was good. And so then I guess I started to make, I had been making this quilt,
Yeah.
the Terry Quilt, for quite a while. And I just thought I'd just keep you company on these videos for the latest ones.
Yeah, because that had been the plan at the very beginning. Can you remember?
That we
It was like
both-
you were gonna.
Well, I had a plan for a courthouse steps quilt
Yeah.
that I was going to make. It's still in my head, that quilt, you know.
Yeah.
I do like that block.
Yeah, I like that block.
I like all the different things you can do with it when you lay it out differently.
Yeah.
But then I'd been making this one anyway. There's the butterfly mind in me, and really very much enjoying making these terry blocks. I'm going to carry on calling them. It's my terry quilt.
Yeah.
And I will definitely leave a link to that video in the description below. But there's a playlist, isn't there, for this series?
Yeah, there is.
And so that will also be linked as well. people want to watch the rest of them.
Yeah.
And so I started making this alongside you.
Yeah.
And what happened next?
We did that good one when I worked at home and you worked at your house.
That was one of my favourite video moments when Anna decided that she would test how big her quilt should be by lying down on the floor beside it. And when I first saw that bit of film, because we were doing the edit and I was looking at it with Anna, I thought, what's she doing here? What kind of madness is this? But then it makes perfect sense that if you're going to lie underneath a quilt, you might want to know how big it is by lying down next to it. And so now that this is coming to an end, and I think I will talk to you about putting a label on the back.
Yeah, you know, when we were talking about that before, I was thinking I might do it.
You might do a label.
Yeah, and just call it like Anna's Spring Quilt or something like that.
And the date.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe, 2007 to 2024. No, it hasn't been that long, has it? However long the dates are.
Yeah, yeah.
I think provenance in a quilt, because you never know where this will end up in decades to come, and it might be nice if someone could peep at the back and see where it came from.
Yeah.
Although they will be able to go back to our videos and watch it being
Should
made.
we just... Oh, you know what I could do? What are those, the QR code? I could stitch a QR code up, link to the playlist.
What a brilliant
That would be so funny. I wouldn't
That'd be cool. Could we print a QR code?
And then stitch it.
I'd love that.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Do you think we could do that?
I don't know. We're going to look into it then.
That would be so funny.
Well, it would be appropriate, wouldn't it?
It would be appropriate.
I'd do a YouTube play button.
Yeah.
And a QR code.
Yeah.
And then anybody who finds the quilt in years to come.
My first bit of what do you call it?
What do you call it?
Embroidery. It's doing QR code.
Let's look into that.
I think we should.
I bet someone's done it.
Yeah.
So the question in my lips now.
Yeah.
Do you want to make another one?
Definitely. Yes. I've been thinking about it because I've got my spring one, you see, but I never did make my winter one.
Or your autumn one, or your summer one.
Yeah.
Well, this is your spring quilt.
Yeah.
Are you thinking to make 4 seasonal quilts then?
That's a cool idea.
With 4 QR codes.
Yeah.
Let's just tell you though that Anna is making a hand-stitched hexagon quilt with Liberty Tana lawn.
I certainly am.
We might have mentioned that at some point in these videos.
Yeah, I think we have.
But that could be your summer quilt maybe.
Yeah.
And it can be ready in like 10 years' time.
Yeah. Well, I've decided... Ooh, lost the thread. I've decided that one's going on our bed.
Wow.
Well, some of the time, because we've already got your lovely one that you made us.
But you've got such a big bed, Anna.
Oh yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about that.
Anna's got the biggest bed of anyone I've ever seen.
It's a very good bed.
It's not even a king size, is it?
It's a super king size.
It's a super king size. That would be quite a mission to make a hand-stitched hexagon quilt for a super king size bed.
I hadn't thought about that.
You would have my deep respect.
Maybe I should put it on our spare bed. Because that's going to be my
sewing room.
When the renovation's finished.
She's going to have a design board.
Oh yes.
And the design board that I use in my house all the time, I don't know how I could manage to work without it. It's just 2 big pieces of polystyrene or styrofoam from the builder's merchant with a furry fabric. You could use quilt wadding, but I use the lining of curtains, which is a bit furry, which helps the things to stick to it. And I use it all the time.
Well, I thought when we build it, and Johnny's going to make me one, we could pop it on Patreon for people so they can see how to make one, if you like.
That's a really good idea, because mine was already made before I started.
You get a lot of questions, don't you?
I do. I get a lot of questions about my design board.
And maybe we could make some shorts for...
Well, what Anna and I are trying to do is make my frequently asked questions and make little shorts for people, so watch out for those. And that's definitely a put your notifications on thing, because I've no idea when those are going up.
Yeah.
But we are going to start doing the FAQs, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely.
But let's go back to the topic of our next, because I'll make one as well.
Yes, that
our
was so
next
fun.
quilt.
Because I think that's been the most fun thing, is doing it together. I really enjoyed that.
I think once I started doing quilting along with you, doing this one.
Yeah. Oh, I've lost my thread again.
She's lost the thread. She keeps on pulling too hard when you get excited.
I'm not quite at the I can easily multitask whilst doing this stage, am I?
So multitasking. There you go. I'm loving this facing. I think I'm going to face a lot more quilts. I might have said that already.
Yeah, it looks very... I'm going to have to give it a go. I like the way it looks.
And I'm going to use this quilt on my bed straight away.
Yeah, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, because I've got quite a few quilts.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, you know the ones I mean upstairs.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much what I want from you. You know, you often ask me, like, what are you making your quilt for? I want to one day have a shelf like you, or like a beautiful cabinet that I open
All
up.
stacked with beautiful folded quilts that
Yeah.
you just get out when visitors come.
Yeah, yeah.
and
Oh, it's like,
make
oh,
up
I've
their
had that one
spare
on the bed
beds.
for ages. I'll put this
rotating the quilts around,
Yeah.
that's a very good idea.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's basically
And
what I
so,
want.
with that end in mind,
Yeah.
we've kind of found a fabric supplier that we want to use, both of
Yeah.
us. And so, we're not going to tell you anything about it. But I think later in the year,
Yeah.
because we've got quite a lot of other things on, haven't we?
We do, yeah.
And so I suppose, you know, we've been neglecting them a bit. So we'll get back to them.
Mhm.
But then when the urge is to make a new quilt, we'll start looking at some of this other fabric, yeah?
Yeah. That would be really fun.
Have you got a... So like quilters do,
Yeah.
you've got loads of projects in your head, have you?
Well, you know what's funny is that because I'm planning the house renovation at the minute,
Oh, yeah.
so I'm thinking like, oh, I want to have an armchair by the fire in the kitchen. Well, I need to have a quilt to go on the armchair. So I'm like, and then new sofa. Oh yeah, so I'll have an armchair.
Need a quilt over the sofa.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then this one is going to be the spring quilt, so it's going to be, well, I quite like the idea of this being on the spare bed, but also one that, because I like to lie in the garden in the spring and the summer. That would be nice
You
as
could
well.
have it in your hammock. couldn't
Yeah,
you?
but also if I'm having like a picnic in the garden, or if I'm just like lying in the
I'm
sunshine,
glad you've got uses for all these things.
just justifying making lots more as well.
No, you don't never need to justify making quilts, Anna.
No,
Just make them.
I know, it's so fun.
It is fun. So this cabin then, this is where a few weeks ago I made a video about the Onthou quilt that I want to make. And this is where that quilt's going to go, down in the cabin. And if people don't know where I am or what I'm talking about here in the cabin, I've got another channel that's called The Last Homely Garden, and it's about all the things that I do out in my garden, and increasingly all the things I do with Ant, who is my neighbour and a really good guy for his builder, and he's just a general odd job man. I think he'd hate being called an odd job man.
Yeah,
Because that's not a great phrase, but he just can turn his hand to anything.
just a
And
practical guy.
He's very practical, and he built this cabin, and
in a remarkably short space of time.
way too quickly for my liking. I wanted to come out here with the hammer and the drill, and I didn't get a chance to do too much of that.
Yeah.
But we did manage to make this quilt wall, which is just behind us here.
So cool.
Yeah, it is good, isn't it? With
Yeah.
flying geese and pinwheel blocks.
Yeah.
So that's fun. But yeah, so the garden channel is where I talk about all the things that are happening outside the house. But there's quite a bit of overlap now that I'm using this as another craft room.
Yeah. I liked it when you suggested coming down here.
Yeah?
It was a good idea.
I said, where do you want to sit and stitch your binding on?
Yeah.
So I think we'll say this is the end of Anna's quilt. It's finished. And we'll say...
Why don't when I come in, I'll finish it tonight and tomorrow at home, and then when I'm next in, we can hold them both up finished for everyone
okay,
to see.
well, no pressure.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put this up on the board.
Oh, shall I ring mine over?
Yeah, have you got yours, Anna?
I have.
Have you got yours? Oh,
I do. Oh, yours looks so good.
thank you, thank you.
Beautiful.
Still got to stitch in this direction, but it'll
Yeah,
happen. Let me see. Oh, it's gorgeous. I love the binding.
Thank you. I really like it.
I really
Iron
like
shot.
it too. I like it.
I've had 2 naps under it, so I feel like it's official.
See, it's official now. You
Yeah.
napped underneath it.
And watched a few films like
Okay.
underneath it.
And it works.
It works, guys. It works. Woohoo!
Oh, that's so great. So great. Well done. Next quilt coming soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thanks so much for watching this series. I've loved it. I really have, and I've loved watching Anna become a quilter.
Yeah, thank you for teaching me.
Ah, it's been great.
I've enjoyed it so much.
I've really enjoyed it. And so if you've enjoyed watching this whole series, you can go back and watch the videos in the playlist that we'll leave a link to below. But give us a thumbs up for this one. And we'll see you next time with something else that Anna's going to make.
Yes.
Well done, love.
Thank you.
So good. I like it very much.
Me too.
Have you got a favourite colour combo?
Oh, I think just the pinks and teals, florals. And,
You're a big teal fan, aren't you? So
I
when
am.
the teal comes into the teal.
Yeah,
I
and
like
I like these ones as well.
Yeah, it's always got one of those in when you like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, very good.
What about you?
Well, I like the colour wash of it, and so I will be making another one of these.
Yes.
And I'll concentrate more on getting the colour wash a little bit more dramatic.
Yeah.
I think maybe a bigger one. What do you think?
That would be good.
Huge one.
Yeah.
It's such a lovely block to make.
Yeah.
I like it very much.
I really like
do.
it.
Well, and let me have a look at the back of yours. Ooh, cool. Very cool. I'm glad it works. I'm glad napping under it works. So good. Well done. 100 out of 10, Anna.
Oh, thank you. Well, you've been a very good teacher.
Oh, thanks. Right, we've got to do this stitching in this direction now. It's going to take me years and years to get around to finishing this quilt, but I will finish it.
Yeah.
I will.